It's the Fulhamish podcast, your independent voice of Fulham FC. My name is George Cooper, and today we'll be looking at what went wrong as league leaders Arsenal breezed past Fulham to secure a very easy 3-0 victory at Craven Cottage. Fulham, who, let's not forget, were without key players in Willian and Joao Paulinha, just never really got going, conceded 3 soft goals in the first half, and whilst they improved in the second, no doubt after receiving a bit of a tongue lashing from Marco Silva, it sadly wasn't enough to come away with anything. Whilst Mick Jagger watched on from the cottage, our boys on the pitch ensured that the fans left without getting no satisfaction. Many felt a result like this has been coming, and whilst it's obviously disappointing, we have to remind ourselves that Arsenal are very, very good at football, and we've still got plenty to look forward to this season. Most of all, our FA Cup quarter-final clash against Manchester United, which we will be coming on to. With me to chew the fat following yesterday's result is Don Betts. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, not bad, mate.
Cool. Dan Cook?
Yeah, I'm doing all right. Cheers, Coops. Doing all right. Managing after. It was disappointing, but managing.
Good stuff. And Stephen Sheldrake, how are you today?
Brilliant. Thanks, George. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm good. All the better to see your faces, lads. I believe you've got some 3-word reviews for us, Stephen, if you'd like to do the honours and kick things off.
Oh, yeah. So I went to the Big Blue Bird for our 3-word reviews, and I've pulled out 5 absolute corkers. So starting with Fulham Douster with a Sunday roasting, which feels very apt. Neil Laws with jowl-shaped hole. Gordon FFC Riverside with couldn't be asked. Sean Smith with Trossed and turned. And finally, Jacob Krupa with outgunned, outmanned, and outplanned.
I feel like that last one really summarises the afternoon's proceedings all too well. Dan, I think a few in the fan base felt a result like this was coming. Our form has really taken a dip, and there's some pretty average performances. I feel like our average performances as a team have been disguised by some sort of shock results and some wonder goals. Do you feel like the writing was on the wall with this game for a little while?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I said it after the quick take after the Brentford game, which I was on. It's like that result felt like it was coming. I think the thing is, I think we were due results like one against Brentford, a team around us who were just going to be better than us because we're in poor form. It's just extra amplified when you play a team as good as Arsenal are this season, because any errors we made, any lapses in concentration, any free men who were available from an Arsenal point of view, they found them and they punished us, and it was coming. It's just a shame because sometimes I think these games against sort of top 6 or big 6 sides, the form isn't necessarily the thing you need. It's just like a little bit of graft, a bit of battle, and really going in and just trying to bully the opposition a little bit. And it was just a little bit like that old nice Fulham where we were like, oh yeah, you guys play really good football. Fair play to you. And we played some nice football at times as well, but ultimately we were just beaten by a much better side.
Yeah, you mentioned there we needed to bully the opposition, and we certainly didn't do that. One of our bullies was absent. As I mentioned in the intro, Joao Paulinha. We're also without Willian, who had a hamstring issue and also a back issue that had been troubling him over the last couple of days. Fulham have won 0 points and conceded 10 goals without Joao Paulinha, which is around 27% of all of our goals conceded. No one in our squad has also made more tackles than Joao. Having said this, Marco was quite reluctant to blame the absence of Joao and Willian. He said, it would be easy way for me to analyse the game. However, that's not the case. It's our reality. The players on the pitch had all the conditions and ability to do much better. Dom, do you feel like these defeats can be blamed on these absences, or do you agree with Marco and think that we've got everything sort of in our arsenal to win? It was just down to just a poor team performance.
I think it's a bit of both, really. I think we were quite soft in the first half, which Marco alluded to in his post-match interviews. I mean, I didn't think we put it on Arsenal, and I think if you put it on Arsenal, as Bournemouth showed last weekend, that you can get some goals. But I don't know. I said enough. It is like we are a completely different team without Joao Paulinha. There is that, but there's also the fact that we kind of let just Arsenal play their football in the first half, and kill the game, because obviously once they go 3-0 up, we're not coming back into the game. I think we are not the same team without Joao Paulinha, but I also think that's due to the squad depth. I think there isn't someone who naturally sort of comes in and replaces him. I think you look at, obviously, Harrison Reed, Lukic and Pereira's the midfield, obviously, that's been coming in. I just don't think it's got necessarily the same bite. I don't think it's got the same... I don't know, it's just the midfield isn't the same. Maybe also the height in there isn't the same, with obviously Harrison Reed being about 5'6" and Joao Paulinha being about 6'2". But yeah, I think it's a bit of both. I think we didn't help ourselves yesterday, but as you say, our team just isn't the same without Joao Paulinha, and thankfully, obviously, he's back for the Manchester United quarter-final, and thankfully for us, Casemiro is obviously out of that game. But yeah, I just think it's a bit of both, really. I thought we were quite soft, as Marco Silva said. I think we allowed Arsenal to play their football, and we didn't sort of rough them up as maybe Bournemouth did in the early stages of their game last week.
I do also think, Coops, that like there's two elements to why we've been poor recently, and I think one is out of possession, particularly in the last two games, and that is partially down to missing Joao Paulinha, because he's fantastic when we don't have the ball in breaking up the play and getting involved. But I think also when we've had the ball, we've just not moved it in the same way that we were when we were at our best this season. I think we've been slow in possession. We lack that sort of like incisive, that sort of killer touch at times. And I don't think that's down to missing Paulinha, because that's not part of his remit in that role. He's a good recycler of possession, but he's not tasked with cutting teams open. And I think that's more of a problem with, I think that our forward line and our creators, that they just aren't performing to the same levels as they were earlier in the season. So I think that there is, like, Marco's not necessarily wrong when he says it's not, you can't just blame the fact that we're missing Paulinha for these performances.
Yeah, no, I agree. We're taking a bit of a dip in form, right? It happens to every team throughout the course of the season, unless you're going to go on and do a Leicester and just keep going and going. Like,
we're in a tough run of fixtures. Like, if you look at our fixtures post international break, bar Manchester City away and United away last game of the season, we've got a favourable run-in compared to other teams. United's the only team we still need to travel to. Obviously, that Liverpool game still needs to be rearranged. But if you look at our games straight after international break, what is it? You got Bournemouth away, you've got West Ham at home, Everton away, Leeds at home if we don't beat United. So I feel like everyone's making kind of like a big deal out of a game we're probably supposed to lose. If that makes sense, like, we're still 8th in the league. There's teams with harder fixtures than us. I just think, if you look at our run of games for the end of the season, yes, you can say, we're playing teams who need to get points, and that could, bring up certain issues. But I just feel like if you look, yes, we lost to the team in the top of the league. We've lost a game by 3 goals for only the second time this season. So I feel like, yeah, it was a very, very poor first half, but at the end of the day, it's Arsenal. It's Arsenal who are playing some scintillating football this season, and it's we move on from this, and hopefully you just bounce back straight after the international break. Really.
Yeah. I think a bit of perspective here is always, it's never a bad thing. So as you said, from April, Fulham have only 3 matches left against teams currently above them in the table. So, after this international break, chance to reset. I mean, like, on face value, we took 8 points in March from games against Chelsea, Nottingham Forest, Brighton, Wolves, Brentford and Arsenal. It's not a bad return, considering that really our objective this year is to stay in the league. So, yeah, I just think it's the manner, when you see the likes of when we played Manchester United, narrow defeat, when we lost to Arsenal at the Emirates, it was a very narrow defeat. We went toe to toe. And I think the frustration is more just as we just kind of seemed to sort of roll over a bit yesterday. It wasn't the same spirited performance that we've seen against the top teams. But, you got to take the rough with the smooth. And it's, I certainly don't think it's anything to panic about just yet. I think that's fair to say. I mean, Stephen, as I said, it's very easy to get bogged down in our performance, but I think we can all agree that Arsenal look pretty good, right? Do you think they're on for their first league title in since 2004? That's right, 2004.
Yeah, Arsenal look phenomenal. They were a lot better than when we faced them in the reverse fixture, where we almost scraped a point from them. technically, they're very gifted. They're really good on the ball, and they're strong as well, as they prove against our defence. I mean, at some points you just have to sit back and go, well, that's a joy to watch. I think Arteta's brought out, the best in those players. And when he was first there, I remember when they were floating above the relegation zone thinking it was hilarious. And now, they're absolutely flying. And I think everyone outside of Man City is probably rooting for Arsenal to win, to, mix up a bit.
I'm not.
Yeah. Oh, you're not. And Dom. We won't hear the end of it, but, it was just one of those things, Brentford hadn't been beaten in the league since October, I believe, and Arsenal were Arsenal doing what they do. You take Paulinha out of the equation for Fulham, and that's just two horrific fixtures. Now we've got to look forward, enjoy a cup game where there's, not as much pressure. Casemiro being out, Paulinha coming back in is great. And then we crack on, and I think we aim for that top 10 finish still. Maybe Europe is a bit of a step too far, but, things could shake out funny. And we just got to crack on and look forward.
I think one of the terrifying things that about the top 6 sides in this league, look at Arsenal in particular yesterday. Saliba and Gabriel as a centre-back pairing, and this was one of the things that was getting me all game, is that you've got 2 centre-backs who are physically strong enough to deal with Alexander Mitrovic. They are quick enough to keep up with Manor Solomon and Dan James when he came on, and also tactically aware and astute enough to deal with several runners into the box and tracking their man. Like, it's just a different level, and you look at our back line and we've got players who can do 2 of those 3 things. But at this level, you're looking at players who are just complete footballers, and it's terrifying.
Yeah, I mean, why? Just out of interest, Dom, why is it you don't want to see Arsenal go on and win? What's your issue with the Arsenal?
Because I know too many Arsenal fans. I don't know any Man City fans. I don't care if they win the league again.
Because there are hardly any Man City fans, are there, outside of Manchester?
Yeah, there aren't any Man City fans in London, so I don't care if they win the league again. Whereas I know way too many Arsenal fans, and I don't want them to be happy.
I personally don't mind Arsenal. I think they play. I really like their style of football.
I care less what football they play. If I know too many fans of a certain team, I don't want them to win anything.
Yeah, the fan base is annoying. I'll grant you that.
It's like I don't want Chelsea to anything. I don't want United to anything. I don't want Liverpool to anything. Just stand there.
Just Fulham to win everything. Then
that's
just being a football fan.
I mean, I don't really mind if West Ham win a Conference League because I don't know any West Ham fans, because you don't get West Ham fans in South London. So
anyway,
as long as I don't know any of your fan base, then I don't mind.
There you go. That's the Dom Betts mantra. Dan, let's talk about some of the goals. I mean, some very soft goals to concede here. I mean, the first, obviously, Gabriel's corner, delivered into the 6-yard box, rises highest to score, very similar to the goal he scored against us the last time Arsenal were at the Craven Cottage in 2020. Just nobody seemed to jump. I was like, what is going on here? Tosin seemed to get in a tangle and was almost kind of held down by our own players, and it just seemed like a very, very simple free header in the middle of the 6-yard box. I mean, is there anything that you can unpick there, or was it just a clusterfuck, bad defending, move on?
Yeah,
I was really disappointed. Sorry, Dan, you go first.
No, yeah, I think that's part of it. It's just not a well defended set piece. It's a good ball into the box. There's the clear plan there. And I think one of the things that hurts us is the smart sort of blocking that goes on Bern Leno, because it's a cross that's put into the 6-yard box, but he can't come and claim it because he's got an Arsenal player stood in front of him. And I think ordinarily when a ball comes into that sort of region, Leno might be tempted to come and try and clear out. So you lose that, and then it's just misreading of the flight of the ball. There's a lot of bodies in there, and we just don't deal with it well. And it's a shame because we've got probably the 2 best players on the pitch yesterday in terms of aerial ability in Tosin and Mitro, and you'd sort of hope we'd be able to defend a set piece better than that, but it was just poor, really. And I guess there's the momentum factor as well. We were really under the cosh at that point, and we just seemed to switch off, and it seemed to get a bit too much for us almost.
Just adding,
Stephen?
Sorry, just adding to what you're saying, Dan. I think the frustrating thing when I was watching it, first of all, Tosin comes into the team over Diop, and you have to wonder why that is. Is it a height thing, or is it, just different abilities on and off the ball? But for me, if you put in Tosin in as a defender, he's got to be the man winning the ball when it comes into the box. And he just gets swarmed in that little cluster of players, gets a little push on the back, but it's so soft. And I was really frustrated that he wasn't leaping up like a salmon to get that, and it's the second time that's happened this season. Well, I just think he should be stronger and be doing better personally, but that was just my takeaway from that.
Yeah. I mean, I think the worst of all three was the second goal. Martinelli, who stands at a towering 5'8" with a free header at the back post. I mean, just some really poor defending. Trossard turning Tete inside out before basically free header. Robinson doesn't even seem to jump. I mean, Dom, there's no excuses for that goal.
No, I watched this goal and I've watched this back multiple times. I don't really understand what Robinson's doing. Like, obviously, Trossard does some excellent footwork and he gets the ball to the back post, but geezer, just head the ball away. Like, at least jump for it, and he sort of just ducks, and Martinelli at the back post just has an easy free head. I can't quite work out what Robinson's plan is, like, defensively for this goal, because he sort of just stands there, cowers, ducks, and I said he just lets him have a free header. I couldn't quite work. I don't know if he thought he was going to get a foul. I thought both fullbacks yesterday weren't at their best, and I think this goal sort of epitomised sort of both their games really. I don't know about you, Dan, but I couldn't really work out what Robinson was trying to do.
No, I was saying before we came on, I'm just baffled. And I think everyone in the Hammersmith end, particularly because it happened right in front of it, was just so taken aback by the fact that he didn't do anything to stop Martinelli just nodding that in. It was really, really weird. And I think one of the things that I do think we should touch on, what I noticed where I think Fulham was struggling, and maybe this is part of it, is that with Trossard playing up top, he acted as a lot less like a standard centre forward, and you can maybe say like a false nine, or it was probably more than that. He dropped off a lot. He drifted out wide a lot, and I think that really threw us because it left a lot of the time. It left Tosin and Tim Ream with nothing in front of them because Trossard was drifting out wide. You had Odegaard picking up the pocket between midfield and the back line, and the two wingers in Saka and Martinelli out wide as well. And I think it just led to this thing where Fulham didn't seem really sure who they were meant to be tracking. And it sort of pops up to Robinson at the back post. And it's almost like he doesn't... It's like he doesn't know Martinelli's there, but I don't know how that's possible because Martinelli stood in front of him. But yeah, I'm with you, Dom. It was really, really weird.
Yeah, it was just some poor defensive positioning. He seemed like he lost track of Martinelli, lost track of where he was, forgot what his name was. And then, yeah, it was a very easy goal. And Odegaard, I mean, the defending, to have that many touches, it reminded me of like the last 5 minutes of my five-a-side league when everyone is just blowing out their arse and nobody can put in a tackle. And all people just sort of like sticking their legs out, knowing full well that they're just going to like dance right past you. But anyway, I mean, Stephen, just a bad day at the office defensively first half.
Yeah. I mean, again, third goal, Tete should be doing more to stop the cross. There was a lot of hesitancy that when you get, Joao on the pitch, all he does is throw himself at every ball, and that's what we love. And that was the vibe I got from the Fulham back four. There was a lot of not jumping in. Maybe they were so worried about giving a penalty away to Saka, but everyone just stood off, and that was epitomised in that third goal where you probably had about 3 Fulham defenders standing in front of Odegaard, who, I mean, absolutely beautiful goal, fools everyone, but just get stuck in, boys. Like, you've got to be more aggressive. We were very submissive and very, we just kind of took it all, didn't we? And that first offside goal, which was fairly tight, should have been the massive warning sign to be like, right, you need to wake up now. And we just didn't get going, and it was all done by half time, really, wasn't it? A good second half, but it was over and out by then.
Also, Odegaard is left-footed, and that's one of the things that really annoyed me, is that the only thing he's going to do in that situation is drift further inside so he can take a shot with his left foot. And it's sort of, I could see it as soon as he received the ball. I was like, well, he's going to drift in and try and hit the far corner. And I don't, those are things we should know how to deal with, and we didn't. It was poor.
Yeah, some player, that Odegaard, though. Also,
He's fantastic.
Hat trick of assists for Trossard in the first half. I mean, is it just me? They've spoken about, I've heard them talk about this on Football Weekly from time to time, but it's true. Trossard just looks absolutely knackered all the time. It looks like he's just come off the back of like a 48-hour bender and asked to sort of like almost like Paul Gascoigne style and asked to play. But he's really some player. He's great to watch. I hate to say it. Dom's looking fairly bemused at our praise of Arsenal here. he's got no comment at all. But I mean, like Arsenal, Arsenal and Paris Saint-Germain are the only two teams in Europe's top 10 leagues with 3 players on 10 plus goals this season. So Martinelli on 12, Saka on 10, Odegaard on 10, Mbappe on 19, Neymar and Messi both on 13. So I mean, they are a very, very strong side, and I think they're going to go on and win this league. I really do. Right, we've talked enough about the first half, and we did improve slightly second half. I think Marco must have given them a real pasting in the dressing room. Stephen, so we had 2 shots in the first half, 10 shots in the second half. I mean, overall, how do you think we improved? More energy, but obviously not enough to get a goal. What do you think Marco said to the boys at half time?
Pull your socks up, lads. No, I think it was a case of we let Arsenal play their game, completely sitting in our half and crushing us in, and we gave them way too much respect. And I think in the second half, obviously, Arsenal were happier to sit back on a 3-goal lead and hit us on the counter. And Marco said, right, we need to play our game, push up the field and be more intense, because the first half was just completely unacceptable. I think there was one chance maybe where Ramsdale overplayed. I can't remember if that was first or second half, and Pereira had that close chance. But yeah, and that was actually really a big key moment in the game. I think that could have got us into the half, 1 goal down. Suddenly it's a different game, but 3-0, you just can't come back from that, I don't think. And so we managed to play our game, but it was very much too little too late, wasn't it?
Dom, just quickly, on that Pereira half chance, so Ramsdale got caught by the press. Pereira came into possession, and then it seemed to. Some people say he spooned it, but I'm wondering whether because it was so close to goal. I would thought it was a shot, but other people thought he was trying to find Mitrovic. Mitrovic was furious. Do you think it was an attempted shot, cross?
No, I think he was trying to cut it across to Mitrovic, but I think just the angle just wasn't in his favour. I think if he actually fully focused on shooting, it would have been a lot better. I think he just got caught in 2 minds, to be honest. I think he saw Mitrovic in the box and tried to cut it across, but the angle was too tight that he maybe thought, oh, maybe I should actually have a shot. I think if he just focused on actually shooting, then I think we would actually, the attempt might have been slightly better. But as I said, I think in that second half, I think Arsenal sort of allowed us to play, if that made sense. I don't think we were necessarily, we completely changed our game up and that's why we sort of started having more attempts on goal. I think Arsenal, we're 3-0 up. They can have the ball if they want, and then as Stephen said, we'll hit them on the counter attack. But yeah, I think Pereira in that sort of half chance sort of got caught in 2 minds. Really, I don't think he sort of knew what he wanted to do, whether he wanted to cross the ball or have a shot. But as I said, I think our main attempt was the one to hit the crossbar, which originally obviously I thought was a toss-in, but actually ended up being a Mitrovic header. But yeah, I just think Arsenal kind of allowed us to play, and I said it was too little, too late. Where was that sort of intensity in the first half?
I mean, Dom mentioned there Mitro slamming the crossbar. Dan, he desperately needs a goal, doesn't he? That man desperately needs a goal. I mean, what more is there to say, really? Do you reckon he can get back on the score sheet against Man U? What's missing from his game at the minute?
Sure, I actually did think he was a lot better yesterday than he has been recently. He's still fading in games, like late on, like second half, probably 60 minutes onwards. He does fade quite a lot, and I think that's the injury. But I thought his hold-up play was back towards what it's usually, the standard it's usually at, which was a promising thing. He won a couple of free kicks. He held the ball up well. He played those switches, when he receives it around the centre circle and he switches it out to either flank. He played a couple of those, which I thought were more like old Mitro. I think in terms of getting on the score sheet, you do have to look at the players around him and be like, try and create something for him. That's that chance there, which is probably the best chance he's had in like a couple of weeks, comes from just a really good corner. It's a good ball in, and we saw lots of really poor balls in, and we saw the same against Brentford. The ball's not falling to him. We're not creating enough, and he's going to find it hard to score. I think in regard
to the balls coming in, I don't think we're crossing it early enough. I think if you look at a lot of his goals from the start of the season, the goal that sticks in my mind is, obviously a winner against Brentford at home, but they're all from early crosses. I feel we're not getting there was a chance in the first half. I can't remember who it was, but they sort of had the ball sort of in a position where you could cross it in quite early, and they sort of passed it back into midfield. And I was like, that's the perfect opportunity where you need to whip it in early and give Mitrovic a chance to give Saliba and Gabriel a go. And in general, I don't think we've been doing that in recent weeks, and I think that's why Mitrovic sort of been starved the chances, because I think if you look at his goals, a lot of them come from early crosses and getting the ball in the box early when the defence aren't necessarily expecting it. And I think that's where we've been going. Yes, Mitrovic hasn't been up to his best, and I mean, to be honest, I don't think he's fully fit. I don't think he's looked fit really since he's come back from the World Cup, to be honest. But and I think in that opening game against Brazil, I don't think he looked fit, to be honest. But I just feel like we're not giving him the right service, if that makes sense. Where the ball needs to be getting into the box earlier so he can catch the defence off guard, or just so he can attack the ball. I feel like a lot of the times when crosses are coming in, it's coming from the byline back as opposed to deep in our half and whipping it in. And I think that's where Mitrovic is most dangerous.
Yeah, you think about the goal against Liverpool in the opening game of the season, when you call Alexander-Arnold back post just out of nowhere. That's where you want him, isn't it? As you said, pouncing onto the balls. Yeah, it's a very good, valid point, Dom. And Pereira was the one who was predominantly providing those kind of opportunities for us, and a few people have kind of thought that he's been a bit off the ball recently. But yeah, I mean, just to sum up, I don't think there's any reason to panic. As you said earlier, Dom, we got quarterfinal against Man United, and then a bit of an international break, chance to reset and regroup. And on a cheery note, just as we round off the end of this half, it was great to see Rachel Yankee receive a Forever Fulham award yesterday. The GOAT, part of Fulham's first ever professional side, first in Europe. This was in the early noughties. Went on to win 25 honours and play 129 times for Lionesses. My little sister played for Fulham Academy around this time, and Rachel Yankee was just always such a role model to the young girls in that squad. And I thought it was great that the club honour her in such a way. And first of many. That was an iconic side that, really kind of like ahead of its time in many ways. Great. That will do for this half. We'll be back in a moment with some of your questions. Don't go anywhere. Hello, it's the Fulhamish podcast. I'm joined by Stephen, Dan and Dom. Got some questions for you. Thank you very much to everyone who has got in touch. We're going to start with one from our very own Bryce Koval. I'm going to throw this one to you, Dan, and quite fitting seeing as we had a point on this just at the end of the first half. Pereira's looked a little off it as late. Do you think that having no competition and depth in this position is having a big effect? Will Marco try Lukic, TC, Harris in that position at some point, or is it a priority to sign a new number 10 in the summer? I mean, it is true, he doesn't really have an awful lot of competition. I mean, TC, I think, would be the obvious one, but he's obviously had quite an impact coming off the bench and is not fit at the moment. Do you think that lack of competition might be, maybe he's getting a little bit comfortable?
Potentially. And I guess this is the first time in his career, really, at least for certainly a club that he's been at permanently, he has been the first choice and he's had no one knocking on his door. I have had problems with him in recent weeks. I think he is probably low on confidence. I think part of it, but there's been sloppy errors in there. And I think my big problem, and this is one of the things that we had an issue with yesterday, and I think the same against Brentford, is that he doesn't seem to want to be on the ball enough. And I think that is an element of low confidence. There's so many times when we're just looking for that link between, Lukic and Reed, or previously Paulinha and Reed, to Andreas Pereira, but it's not there, and they end up having to go long or trying to switch it out to the flanks because Pereira's pushed up too high or he's being marked out of the game. And I think he just needs to do more to influence the game at the moment. He doesn't seem to be doing it. And I think that's where we really would have probably benefited yesterday from Tom Cairney, because that's one thing that Tom Cairney always wants, is to be on the ball, influencing the game. He drifts around, he creates space. He's always making an option for himself, and Pereira hasn't been doing that. And so whilst he has all of that effort he puts in out of possession, which I think probably as well has been less recently, I think, and that might be just due to tired legs, but he doesn't seem to be pressing as manically as he was at the start of the season. If he's not providing that, then his on-ball quality isn't far superior to TC's. It's probably inferior. And then you've got a problem. Do we need a second number 10? Probably, because we didn't have a way to really influence the game yesterday because Pereira wasn't playing well. It meant Bobby went into the 10, and that's potentially something we could explore a bit more, because I think Bobby is more naturally a 10 than he is a winger. It's certainly, he has played more centrally at the start of his career, and it's us that sort of shunted him out wide. But we do need I think we just need another player in every position in midfield, because we are lacking. You look at how we tried to influence the game yesterday and we couldn't with substitutions because we didn't have anyone to bring on.
No, I think a very valid point. We are pretty threadbare midfield. We had 2 goalkeepers on the bench yesterday, which just shows how much
2 games.
Yeah.
Oh my god, this just shows really.
Well, Marco mentioned Cairney in his post-match interview. He said that I'm without Cairney, I'm without. He didn't want to sort of, obviously, as we mentioned earlier, blame it on Joao, but I think the loss of Cairney has really impacted us in a way that we didn't realise, because I think bringing Cairney off the bench was not necessarily our plan B, but it was always a second half plan that Marco would use. And I think without that, I said there is no midfield depth. Without, obviously, with Paulinha and Cairney out in these 2 games, you've got Luke Harris, and I think that's about it. So I think it is showing the lack of depth, but I mean, we're 8th. I think if you said we'll be on 39 points in the middle of March, I think most people would have taken that. But yeah, I think that the loss of Cairney especially is sort of affecting Marco's second half plans in a big way.
Yeah, let's hope he comes back soon. And just to your point, Dan, about how Bobby Reid originally sort of central. He's played so many positions for us. I've lost track of where he came through originally. I just can't seem to keep track of all the positions that man's played for us. Dom, this one's for you, seeing as how much you admire Arsenal as a footballing side. This is from Sean Burdett. Who is the best team ever to visit the Cottage? Shakhtar during the Europa League run for me. Although that Arsenal side yesterday ran them very close. Now, I was having to think about this. Like, who is the best team that I
don't buy this Shakhtar stuff, by the way, because we beat them.
No, neither do I. They were phenomenal on the night, and we did very, very well to beat them. And they were a very exciting side full of young Brazilians. But I don't think they. Otherwise, they'd be in the Champions League. They weren't
the best. They're not the best team. I'm not.
They were really good that evening, though.
No, I'm not saying they weren't good, but if like Bobby Zamora, Damien Duff, and co beat them, I'm not having the best team to ever visit the Cottage. There's one team that sticks out. I think it was because it's weird. You've got the best teams in that, you've got the teams, but when they've actually come to the Cottage, I think one of the best performances I've seen was, I think it was in Arsenal's last season at Highbury when they wore that maroon kit. I think they beat us 4-0 that season. I think Adebayor had a stormer that day, and they were absolutely all over us. Obviously, Henry was still in that side, but I said it's hard to. The best team, because you got the best teams who we've been in the same league with, but then you've also got the best teams who, when we've seen the performance against us, I mean, that's the performance that sticks out to me, was that Arsenal team. Weirdly enough, the season they didn't win the league, but I think they beat us 4-0. Weirdly enough, in the unbeaten season, we actually should have beaten them at Highbury. I think we were unlucky just to get a draw in that game, but yeah, I'm not. I think we allowed Arsenal. To play yesterday, to be honest. I don't think they showed their class, but I just feel like we allowed them to look so good, as opposed to, wow, what a team this is. But yeah, I said it's not even the best Arsenal team I've seen come to Craven Cottage. So
fair enough. For me, I remember in 2008 we had another quarterfinal against Manchester United, and their team had Van der Sar, Ferdinand, Vidic, Evra, Rooney, Park, Tevez, Giggs, Scholes, and that was. I remember we lost.
I've always said that's the best. That's the best Premier League team. That's the best Premier League team. Yeah,
Tevez got a hat trick, and I just remember thinking they just completely blew us out of the park.
If you win the Premier League and Champions League, the fact that people try to argue you're not the best Premier League team of all time, I think people talk about front threes. People talk about Mane, Salah, Firmino. I was like, mate, they had Rooney, Tevez, and Ronaldo. I think by far that is the best team the Premier League's ever seen. I think it trumps the Invincibles. I think it trumps these Man City teams. Yes, I know these Man City teams got more points, but what have they done in the Champions League? Yeah, I think that Man United team in 2008 was unbelievable. And obviously our last quarter final in 2010, we probably should have won that actually against Spurs. To be honest, that I watched back the nil. I think if I remember correctly, Herelho Gomez won. When you look at the best saves of that season, I think 2 of them were in that quarterfinal 0-0 draw at Craven Cottage. So, and we obviously went 1-0 up a white line in the replay. But yeah, I think that United team in 08 is still, I think, the best team in Premier League history, if I'm being frank.
I think we are also all forgetting
Gomez was.
Oh, absolutely. Great vibes from Herelho Gomez, though. Like, that's peak Premier League football. But the one team I think we are all forgetting, 2021-22 Coventry City. They are, without doubt, the best football team. I think we could put together an all-star Fulham 11.
I removed that day from my memory until you just brought it up.
So. But both of them, I think we could put together an all-star 11 right now. We could pick our best Fulham 11 and we'd still get battered by that Coventry City side.
Tevez, Rooney, Gyökeres.
I mean, it's levels. There's levels to this game, Coops, and Coventry City are the level.
There we go. Moving on. Stephen, this is from Showboat FC. I'm going to throw this one to you. Right, we've talked a lot about our reliance on Joao Paulinha, but realistically, how much of a difference would he have made against that Arsenal side? Although we were poor, I thought that that was by far the best away performance of the Cottage this season. We've already covered it quite a lot. Just quickly, do you think he would have made that much difference? Do you think we maybe would have come away with a point had he been playing, or were Arsenal just be good for us? You do.
I think we would have had the moves like Jagger if he was on the pitch.
That was all random. Jagger in the Cottage. Is he an Arsenal fan?
That was so random. I mean, my dad was like, is he an Arsenal fan? Then like his kid, I don't know if he's a great granddad and who the child is, but had an Arsenal cap on. So I was like, must be an Arsenal fan.
Did you see what Jagger had on his hat?
No.
Dilf.
Is it supposed to be Jill?
Somewhat creepy. No, Dilf is in Dad. I like to,
No, I would say this shouldn't be Jill at his age.
Oh, mate, he's fathered many children very recently as well. I think he's got a whole league of little Jaggers.
A little army. Jagger United. I can't even remember your original question, mate.
It was
let's talk about Jagger's sex life now.
Would Joao have actually made a difference yesterday?
Yeah, I do. When you look at how hesitant we were in jumping into tackles, and we just lost the game in the middle of the pitch, lost it out wide. We probably still would have lost, but it does make such a big difference in key moments, define the game. And Arsenal were just so much better than us. But you stick Paulinha in there with some dirty slide tackles and headers and screaming at everyone. Yeah, Robertson, actually mark your play. I think it can influence the game a lot.
I also think
lost 2-1 instead, but yeah,
I think he would have probably handled Trossed better as well. I think because Trossed stopped being,
he would have clattered Trossed in first 20 minutes.
Like Trossed was stopped being the duty of Tosin and Ream, as we said, because he was drifting deeper and wider. I think that Joao Paulinha would have helped as that screen, and also potentially with Odegaard. Whereas Sasha Lukic, and to be fair, we haven't spoken about Sasha Lukic and his performance, which I think was, again, I'm still not quite sure what sort of player we've got here. But for sure, out of possession, he's nothing like Joao Paulinha, and he can't. And it's maybe not his fault because that's just not the player he is. But he doesn't act as a replacement because he doesn't offer that same intelligence out of possession. And so we definitely would have handled, I think, Arsenal better. Whether we would have matched them well enough to get a result, there's no way we can say.
Let's quickly on Sasha Lukic, because he did seem. I mean, I'm really hesitant to criticise him, seeing as he's so fresh into the side. But he seems like an 8 to me, right? That's his sort of natural role, and I think people are wanting him to just be the carbon copy and paste of Joao Paulinha whenever he's not available, sort of like, like a diet Paulinha. But it's evident that he's not quite that player.
Paulinha Max.
Dom, do you think he's got a like, what role do you think he has in this, in the squad, if it's not as Paulinha's kind of stand?
I think it's penalty taker.
Right.
I think he's got like 6 or 5, a few goals from penalties for Torino. If we ever get one, get him on the pitch, because he seems to be able to put them away. But no, as you said, Coops, I think he's an 8. I don't think he's a 6. As I always said, when obviously Paulinha was suspended, we would be bringing Harrison Reed deeper, and we're playing Lukic in the air. I think, as you said, I think out of possession, that's where this midfield has got a lot to be desired. I think that in possession, I think it's fine. But I said out of possession, there isn't that same sort of dominance in the middle of the park that that Joao Paulinha is going to sweep it all up. And so I think I'm not. As you said, I'm not going to judge Lukic yet. He's had obviously a few games, and he's looked okay. Is what I'd say. But I said he does. I mean, I'm surprised he was actually allowed to play today, considering the amount he probably could have got 2 yellow card offences against Brentford on Monday night. But yeah, I think he's an 8. He's not a 6. So he's not a Joao Paulinha replacement, which we still haven't got, which is definitely something we need in the summer, because I think Harrison Reed is so much better when he plays not further forward as such, but when he plays that box-to-box role, as opposed to being the deep lying one. So yeah, I think people need to understand what Lukic's position is, and just because we sign a centre midfielder doesn't necessarily mean he's going to be a Joao Paulinha replacement.
I do also. I think we probably won't see the best out of Sasha Lukic unless he's probably playing alongside Paulinha. I think that's when you'd probably, because he doesn't have to do as much work out of possession, and he can focus on being that little bit more of a creative. And I think he recycles possession really well. And I think that's one of the things he was offering against Arsenal. It was almost like, if we think back to last season, like Jean-Michel Seri, in the sense that Lukic kept on dropping deep to receive the ball off Tim Ream and Tosin, and trying to sort of just keep play ticking over. And the problem with that, which is the problem we had with Seri last season as well, is that if teams counterattack, he's not equipped well enough to be the last man in midfield, to be our deepest midfielder. And it kept on happening yesterday. He was recycling possession from deep. We'd lose the ball, and then suddenly we were getting flooded. And he's just not the player who can deal with that sort of counterattack. So it's hard to judge him when he's being put into a situation where he's not going to be at his best by default, because it's not his role, it's not his position.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. I think he just needs a bit of time to bed into Arco's system. I've got every confidence that there's a great player there. We just need to find where he fits within this jigsaw puzzle. Dan, Massive Mitro asks, I remember someone bringing it up, but we are catastrophically bad at throw-ins. I think we've conceded a goal that started as our throw-in against Arsenal and Brentford. Why is this? Is this something that you've picked up on, Dan?
Big time, and for a long time as well. And I think it's not just from our throw-ins, it's opposition throw-ins, and it really bothers me, is that I think, I think people will start to notice it if we speak about it and now they watch games, the amount of times that we give the ball away from our throw-ins and the number of times that we win the ball off the opposition from their throw-ins, there's a huge difference. And I think that comes down to just actually practicing them. There is an art to this, and not necessarily the biggest teams either. Like the teams who focus on those minute details tend to be more successful. It's those little, again, fine margins, but teams employ throw-in coaches because it's an important way to recycle possession. And like we saw it yesterday, we gave the ball away on our own halfway line from a terrible throw-in, and we conceded. And so I think it's really important to work on. And I just think Fulham, it looks like we don't work on it, and we just sort of resort to defaults. Often it's just a long throw in down the line, see who can get their head on it and if we can win the second ball. And if you watch a team maybe not quite at the moment, but if you watch, Liverpool at their best, Liverpool are fantastic from throw-ins because they are always manoeuvring it where they have a man free who can receive the ball 2 feet and play out. Whereas we are so often just sort of going long, trying to win a header or win a second ball, that it's poor. And I think it's an area that requires focus because it's, we've conceded now twice from these situations. So there is an element that I think we just need to work on it more. And to me, it looks like it's undercoached as opposed to like someone who's bad at taking throw-ins, if you see what I mean.
Yeah. I mean, I don't even pretend to have the football analytical brain that you do, Dan, and it's something that I'd not really picked up on, but it makes perfect sense. And yeah, I'll certainly keep an eye on it moving forward. I guess as you say, it's just practice on the training field. Also, another thing that's annoyed me is that we were so prolific from set pieces at the start of the season, and our rate seems to have really dropped off a cliff in recent times as well. I mean, is it just a case of you think teams are sussing out our like routines and we're just becoming a bit predictable and need to shake it up a bit? If that's the case, then obviously the international break would be an ideal opportunity to work on these things. But I mean, overall, do you think it's just international break couldn't come soon enough?
Yeah, I think this is a good time, isn't it? Like, I think it's just a good opportunity for the team. We get away from Premier League action. We've got the FA Cup quarterfinal coming up, and then we've got a break. And I think we sort of need a bit of a reset. And it's good as well because I think the break comes at the point where we are then going into this winnable run of fixtures. So we can really go away, sort of calm down a little bit, get over this little blip, this little bump, and just go full pelt at Bournemouth away on the 1st of April. I think that's what we need. And I think it's sort of fallen at a nice time for us. So yeah, it's a shame that I never like going into an international break in bad form because you sort of want to, after yesterday, all I want is Fulham to play like tomorrow and try and put it right. Because instead we've just got to sit with this little bit of frustration that, we were pretty rubbish yesterday. But in terms of the team and like for legs and for morale, I think it's a good piece of timing now.
Yeah, agreed. Dom, last question. Taz says, is FA Cup the main focus now? What do you reckon?
Yes, it's been our main focus since the third round.
Yeah, good man. Right,
I think it should have been our main focus. I think it should have been our main focus since the third round because, at the time when we drew Hull City actually in the third round, it was sort of like, well, you'd argue we're safe. Why not focus on this? We've not had a good cup run. As you said, it's our first quarterfinal since 2010, which is obviously 13 years. And I think there's no reason why we can't beat. I watched United's game against, at the same time I was watching the Fulham's game yesterday against Southampton. They weren't good. I know they were down to 10 men for a lot of the time, but like they weren't very good. And if anything, Southampton probably had the better chances in the game. And Southampton were sitting back quite a lot. They weren't sort of pushing for that winner, even though United were down to 10 men. United, as you mentioned, George, without Casemiro, if they've got a midfield of, McTominay, Fred and Bruno Fernandes, and I mean, with a bit of luck, Real Betis will give them I know they're 4-1 down, but we'll at least give them a good go on Thursday night. But yeah, I think Fulham fans should be optimistic going into this game at Old Trafford. There's no reason why we can't get a result. And I'm looking forward to it next Sunday.
Yeah. Just on the Casemiro point, so their win rate with Casemiro, they win 70% of their games. Without Casemiro, they win 47% of their games. So he's kind of a little bit like our Paulinha in terms of his influence on this side. So yeah, it's a little it's a real boost, I should say. I mean, obviously we all have Paulinha back as well, and hopefully, I'm not sure how long Willian's supposed to be out for, but hopefully could be making a return. I think Marco said that TC also is looking for a return against Man U, if that's correct. If not, it would definitely be for our next league game. So yeah, no, it should be I'm really looking forward to it. Unfortunately, I'm not able to make it in person to Manchester, but I'm looking at this from a win-win because like if we get through, obviously we've got Wembley, and if sadly I miss out on what will be an all-time historic victory for Fulham,
you've saved yourself 100, 200 quid.
Yeah, yep. Exactly. Right, that'll do for today, I think. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Stephen, would you like to name this podcast? What was your favourite 3-word review?
It's between two. I'll let you guys argue it. It's Trossed and Turned, just because I thought, Trossard was superb, wasn't he? Or Outgunned, Outmanned and Outplanned. I think I'm going to go for Trossed and Turned on this one.
Agreed.
His performance
I think
was.
that's good.
I'm actually sitting in a Brighton fan's house right now, and they're livid. They absolutely hate Trossard. So, yeah.
Yeah. Trossed and Turned will go with it. All that's left for me to do is thank my guest, Dan Cook. Thanks very much for today.
Been a pleasure, Coops. Thanks for hosting.
Dom, always great to see you, mate. Thank you very much.
Always a pleasure, Coops.
And thank you, Stephen Seldrake, for naming this podcast and for your contributions. Much appreciated.
Thank you very much. Looking forward to Old Trafford, and I will be doing another follow Fulham away video there. So yeah, get involved.
Yeah, do keep your eyes peeled. Yeah, thank you so much for listening. The usual suspects will be back for the Thursday Club, so do keep your ears open for that. And for all those making the trip up to Old Trafford this Sunday, enjoy. Hopefully we can be celebrating a Wembley semi-final on Mother's Day. Let's have it. You Whites.